So you're in Ohio now. I'm going to ask you first, John, where did you grow up?
In Manhattan, in New York City.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
born in Manhattan.
Okay. Gene, what about you?
in Elyria, Ohio.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you haven't ventured far, huh?
No, I have not.
Okay. And then tell me about your John, I want to tell me about your early life. What are some of your earliest childhood memories?
Oh, okay. When I first younger, I remember if we moved to live in Flatbush for a while. I was born in Manhattan, but we moved to Flatbush, and the subways were above ground there. And I can remember my mother taking me to the store or something and walking over the subways. And then gradually we moved on back into Manhattan. So just about when I started the second grade, second grade, moved into the Bronx next to the Yankee Stadium. So I grew lived at the next stadium for about 10 years. That'd be from 1940 to 1950. And my father was a superintendent of the building, although he's in charge of the building. And like there was, when we were in the Bronx, he was in charge of two buildings,
Okay.
two six-story buildings, probably with 12 stories each building.
Oh
And
boy.
one of the interesting things were they used to, people that lived in the neighborhood, people would sublet their apartments in the neighborhood during the summer. They would go off and sublet their apartments to ball players.
Oh
So,
wow.
so you see Joe DiMaggio, a bunch of other players walking around, staying or going into the grocery store. You see them and their wives in the grocery store. And the one I liked especially was Yogi Berra because he lived in our apartments for 2 years, well, 2 summers.
Okay.
Oh, and at that time, I also worked for a tailor. That age, and when you're in the Bronx like that, those also part-time jobs. So I had a job as a part with a tailor, picking up tri-ting and stuff like that. And Yogi Berra was one of my customers for 2 years.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
had for 2 years, and then Joe DiMaggio kind of one day I came home from school and walked in, and there's Joe DiMaggio and my father sitting and in the kitchen table. What happened? My father was back in one of the buildings and saw this man running and all these people running after him, and he knew exactly it was a ball player. So he kind of waved him in and closed the door, and here was Joe DiMaggio. So he took him,
Wow.
take him up and they sat down in the kitchen. So the guys kind of got tired of looking for him, and he when they ran out of steam, he took off and thanked my father. And as he was leaving, I walked in the door, and he said, "Oh, hi, Mr. Durant, how nice to see you," that sort of stuff. But there was also see, no, there those did not have the big pays and stuff like that, and a lot of them they all lived on. A lot of them had sublet these apartments in the summer times. So I also worked for uh, a grocery store, and their wives would come in there and do shopping and things like that, and you'd get to know
Mm.
the wives. And after the game ended early or something like that, the guy came in and pick up his wife in the fruit market or the grocery store. So it was a neighborhood.
Yeah. It sounds like quite a brush with fame. If you can do on one hand you got Joe DiMaggio, on the other hand you got Yogi Berra. That's probably as big as it gets.
Yeah.
Not many
So
can top that. Not many can top that for sure. When you obviously went to elementary school in
yes,
uh, in New York, and what were some of your activities that you like to do at that point in your life?
uh tell you that I went to I started school over in Manhattan, but then I got on a parochial school. Then I think when I was out to third grade, I transferred to a school in the Bronx, and I lived quite a ways from in fact, in the morning I took a subway. I was
Oh,
in
you did. Okay.
the third grade, and I took it, and it cost a nickel, so I had to walk home. It was kind of couldn't spend any
It's,
money on everything. So I wa- went to then, and actually didn't have much time because I also had a part-time job after school, so I
okay.
had to get home from school and to go do my part-time job for a couple hours, and then have supper and do my homework.
Sure. And isn't it funny that if you thought about putting a third grader on a, a train today, you'd probably have uh, the authorities coming after you right now. But back then, it was just it was accepted. It was okay.
Yeah, because see, I could either take the train or the trolley car. And I liked the trolley car because Mr. Murphy was one of the trolley car drivers, and I would stand beside him up front and pull the chain on the bell when he wanted me to pause. Because I always waited for Mr. Murphy. I'd sit there and wait till his trolley came and go aboard Mr. Murphy's thing and ring the bell going down over to Melrose Avenue. So
That's just like
that's
a moth to a flame pulling that bell, huh?
yes, oh yeah, but it's an old-fashioned bell. And you see them in movies and stuff like that, you know.
Sure, sure. Like the Rice-A-Roni commercials.
Yeah, probably.
Yes. All
Yeah.
right. And then we're gonna pause here and we'll talk about high school in a little bit here after grade school. But I want to switch over to your other half over here, Gene, and tell me about your childhood upbringing in Ohio.
Much different.
It
It
sounds
was,
like it. I didn't expect all that, and I know it's the Bronx, New
that's,
York, but I didn't expect DiMaggio and Barra and all these cable cars. And tell me about your growing up or early childhood memories that were pleasant for you.
early childhood memories are just going to school every day. And what we did in those days was walk to school, and at noontime for lunch, we walked home, and
Mm.
then we walked back to school
Oh my
and
God.
back again. And it was a mile that we had to do this, and you had to keep track of whether or not there was actually school going on. And I can remember one time I was quite young. I'm not sure exactly what grade I was in, but I walked to school in the morning and found that there was no school.
Oh,
Nobody in the school building, no one in the classrooms, anything. And I began to cry and I started to walk home, and someone found me on the way home and invited me in and called my mother, who had to come and rescue me. But
oh my goodness.
in this day and age, my goodness, that would never happen.
Right, right. Well, there'd be good communication between the students and the school to say, we don't have school today, so everybody stay home.
That's right.
Mm.
That's
Yeah,
right. But
yeah.
I'm, I, it's interesting when I stop and think about that, because I haven't thought about it for years, but it did happen and I was very frightened. Yeah. But anyway,
What
it was a different world.
It
Very,
certainly was, certainly was. What did you do? Were you in any extracurriculars for grade school, elementary school at the time?
not at those points in time. No, it was very regimented. We came home, did our homework, did playtime outside, whatever we did, it was, there was nothing that, no school, sports or anything like that. It was just, and you have to understand that was back in the 30s and 40s, so it was much different. There was a conflict going on abroad, and in our family, we were very much aware of that. I was the youngest of 4 children, and I had 2 older brothers who were concerned about being drafted
Sure.
and into
Sure.
the Army or Navy or whatever, which did eventually happen. And a sister who was 8 years older than me, and she was very helpful to me, but certainly she was in high school when I was in grade school, that sort of thing. So
Mhm.
it was just nothing. It was so different.
So you had how many siblings total?
There were 4 of us, and my brothers were 2 years apart. My sister was maybe 3 years younger than the youngest boy. And then I was, as I said, 8 years younger than she was.
Got it. Okay. Describe for me memories of your mother.
My mother was from German descent. She had a very strong relationship with her family, and they were very substantial in terms of their commitment to the city of Valeria, and I think that she was very focused on education, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
She was a good cook, tremendously good cook, but
What's
she,
your best meal? What was your favorite meal?
well, she,
One of.
one that we're going to have tomorrow night as a matter of fact, one of our daughters has decided that she is going to make filled noodles.
Oh, okay.
You would love them. You would
Okay. That sounds filled with cheese, meat. What do you?
know, these would be like beef or anything like that. They're very difficult to make, but they're made in very large quantities and cooked for a number of hours. And it's just a very complicated recipe that
Sure.
has come down through the ages and takes a lot of time. And she was very focused on doing what needed to be done for her family. She took care of us.
Well, it sounds like she would be thrilled that you'd still be preparing this dish, or that your daughter's preparing this dish in her honor.
That's right.
Uh, what about your father?
My father, Elyria is very close to Lorain, Ohio, which is on the borders of Lake Erie. And there is a big steel plant in Lorain, has been for years. It's in the process of being of ending at this point in time. But there was a railroad that ran through the steel plant. It was called the Lake Terminal Railroad, and my father began working there at the age of 14. And when he retired from there, he was a director of the railroad. And he was very focused on working. He would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go over to Lorain, which of course meant that he had to take a streetcar because there were no automobiles or anything like that. Different life. And he did that for years and was very respected in the community of Lorain and Elyria. He was also a very talented musician, and he was a tenor, sang in a quartet, and they would entertain at a theater downtown in Elyria on occasion, and with minstrel shows and things like that, which if most
What did he
people would
play?
know. Pardon me?
What was his instrument?
He was a vocal.
Oh,
He
okay, got it.
sang all the time, yes. No, no, I don't believe he ever even played the piano, as a matter of fact, but,
Well, if you have a good voice, you don't have to play anything.
oh my goodness, no. He had a beautiful voice, and I can still remember that. But it was a very serious focus in those days to present these programs.
Tell me about holidays, Thanksgiving or Christmas. What do you take? And that's a question for both of you. I don't know who wants to go first, John or Jean, but give me your childhood memories of holidays. Was it big and everybody came over? Was it small? The smells? How were those played out?
I'll let John start.
Oh, me? Oh, we didn't have a big holidays because, see, my mother and father im immigrated from Scotland, and I had never had. Back there was all kinds of aunts and uncles and things like that. But over here in the States, I had never had any aunts or uncles or cousins or anything like that. And never
Okay.
grew that. So holidays were just sort of personalized thing, and family and neighbors and families like that. But it was kind of, and they were also interesting in some ways because my father always was the building superintendent.
Yep.
And we had like what, two, 24, about 24, so I'd have to admit, and had a lot of apartments in there. And Christmas was always very generous to the Tierney family with all these people and taking care of their superintendent. Because my father, was in charge of the building,
Sure.
and if there was any complaints, they'd come to we didn't have any at that point. We didn't have any telephones or anything like that. So they had to
Right.
come down and talk to and usually my mother got the message. So they came and talked to her, and she knew all that. And the same thing. In the neighborhood, I was, we had these two buildings, and I had a couple hundred people knew me by name and who I was, and there's the Tierney boy and stuff like that. Was
You
unusual.
couldn't get away with a lot, huh?
Pardon?
You couldn't get away with a lot, huh?
Oh no, definitely not. No, 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 yeah. Because
Plus, I suppose living in New York, there's not a lot of real estate, to have, if you're gonna to have people over and a large gathering, you're in not tight quarters, but it's not going to fill 25 people ever at on the Thanksgiving or Christmas.
no, the apartments were, families. There was like 6-room apartments and 4-room apartments and stuff like that. So a lot of the people lived in the fact that we had no relatives in the country. We had no uncles and aunts or stuff like that. But the
Sure.
people, people in our house, they had relatives, families and living in other buildings and other parts of the city and things like that. So there was families that way. And they were predominantly a Jewish neighborhood. So they had a lot of close families and things like that.
Now you said that you worked as a tailor, correct, or with a tailor?
A couple of things. I had a job with the tailor, also a grocery, also a vegetable market. Also had a job after school.
Well, there's a great story about a tailor that lived in New York City, and he was going out to lunch. He's going to go have his lunch. He's going to go to the deli to get a sandwich, and he stepped out of the corner and he got hit by a car. And he's laying in the street, and a good Samaritan came up and rolled up his sport coat and put it under his head. And he said to the tailor, "Are you comfortable?" And the tailor looked up at him and said, "I make a good living."
Sounds like New York.
Yes, I always laugh at it. But when you said tailor, I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's one of the funniest jokes." Gene, go ahead. Let me tell us about your holidays or what you remember.
Holidays were a joyous time. Our family, my mother's family always got together with all her siblings and their children, and it was always a musical event.
Mhm.
Everyone played an instrument, and they would have Christmas dinner and a large offering of foods and different things like that. And then the music would start and the singing would go on, and it would go on until midnight when everyone just disappeared then and went home. But it was a joyous time. I can always remember that. It was something to look forward to.
Yeah, that sounds very festive and just very welcoming and warm, regardless of whether it's
Yes.
Christmas, Thanksgiving, or whatever the case may be. Fun to get together with everybody.
And they were all very friendly, and there were no difficulties between people. It was
Right.
a very close family relationship.
That's nice. That's how it should be. You know, life's too short to be bickering or not talking. And
That's
now
right.
these days, even family members, it's just you have to be careful what you say, what you do, you know,
Yeah.
it's such a sad state that we live in that even blood relatives will say, you voted for XYZ, I voted for ABC, I can't talk to
That,
you. I can't, it shouldn't be that way. You know what? I always
that's
say Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill would say, "You're Ron, you're full of beans. Tip, you're full of beans." And then they'd go have lunch or dinner together and forget their
yeah,
differences and just realize that it's
that,
okay to not follow my political view. And
that's
that's happened in families across the country too. So that's
yes,
that's a thing of the past, is just everybody getting along because everybody has their opinions now.
that's
But
right.
let's not talk politics. Let's get to high school. Okay. So, Gene, where did you go to high school?
I went to Elyria High and enjoyed that. At the time, the Elyria Catholic was in the process of being developed, and they held classes in one of the grade schools in town for a year until the building was completed. And my uncle actually was the architect for that
Oh,
particular.
wow.
So it was a very close-knit sort of thing, but my friends were all going to Elyria High. And so I discussed this with my mother and father, and my father discussed it with the necessary people that he had to discuss it with.
Hmm.
And I was able to choose to go to Elyria High. And I made friendships that have lasted through the years, and there are still two members of our class that are still around, and we stay in touch all the time, and it was a wonderful experience.
It's funny how at that time when you don't know these people and you meet them and they're friends for life and you just share all of your life's ups and downs and what's going on, the reunions. It's high school can be such a difficult time for those 4 years, but it also just things that you blossom into with friends for life is
Right.
funny how God works. I think that's in my opinion.
Very definitely.
What type of activities did you do in high school?
Um, I was focusing on French. I was focusing on studies that would get me into college, which was where my brothers and sister went. And so I was focused on making a go of it.
Okay.
And
What
certainly,
did you aspire to in high school? You don't really have your sea legs yet. What did you aspire to? Did it change from freshman year to senior year? What you wanted to do?
probably I really didn't make a choice until later in my high school career. Music was certainly the important thing. I was very active in music. I took vocal lessons and piano lessons, certainly, and all through school, through grade school and high school. And so that was a focus.
Hmm.
But I never thought that I would ever, ever have a musical career. But my focus was getting into helping people. And I joined a couple of groups through our church during that period of time. And it eventually led me to a social work career when I entered college.
Hmm. Okay. So you hit the ground running after high school, college, and you were ready to go then.
That's right. You're right.
All right, let's flip over to you, John.
Yes, sir.
High school. Freshman year, you're a hotshot freshman going into high school and you're running this show, huh?
No, far from it.
Okay. I gathered that. I just wanted to tease you a little bit.
There were 1,000 freshmen in our school.
Oh, wow.
1,000 freshmen, and they weren't all there at the same time because they were scattered. They had like three. I forget what they call schools with freshmen in them, and we all came together in the sophomore year. So for 3 years, you had your class was about 1,000
Oh,
things like
wow.
that, and it was all boys. It was a Catholic high school, and it's all
Okay.
boys, and all kinds of the priests, the brothers, and things like that in the school. And and by the time I graduated, I think we had 800 left.
You weeded out some of the bad guys.
Yeah, we didn't stump them out, and so and the thing was so wide open. I didn't have many. I was probably the one that kids that lived closest to the school, believe it or not. They gave
Okay.
out a prize for the guy that the kid that lived closest to school. That would be me. So we had a couple of friends in high school, but they lived away. They took the train in the morning to the city. I walked to high school. They took the train or the bus or something into high school.
Okay.
Went home on the bus or train. And there was one fellow that was with walking distance, Philip Dolan. I remember him. Yeah, Philip Dolan, because his father worked down in used to be a with a cement and concrete and
Okay.
uh,
Sure.
and
Contractor?
pardon?
Was he a contractor?
No, they sold the concrete and stuff
Oh,
like
I
that,
see. Okay. Okay.
board and thing, and it was the business was going out of business because it was strange because we had these big yards to play in. We had the sand and we had these old trucks we could ride around. We couldn't drive them, but they try to climb in the trucks and that. And we had this great playground to play on. But then
Sure.
Philip, come the senior year, he didn't come back to school. And I never really found out what happened to him. Someone said he joined the Navy. His father had been joined the Navy, and he was left. So he was the one I was close to in high school, but we just kind of never, since he left, never came back for a senior
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. Did you
Graduated.
did you do any extracurriculars at school, or you said you were working?
Yeah, I was work again, delivering and stuff like that. It was also jobs. There was always jobs for after school, and being in school, there was less time. More homework and things like that. So I was not in job anything. And plus, and when you're in a class with 1,000 people, and it's kind of competitive for things that are going on. You go out there to. I can't remember. Went out for one or two things and didn't make them. I mean, because I got
Sure.
was
It's
nice.
competitive, especially at lunch.
Yeah, yeah. So we had they did a system, but we had a. We're thinking back like that. I mean, I mean, they fed us all because at that point, uh, you know, it was good. It was run quite well. I'll say the school was a nice school, and plus, when you're dealing with the brothers and priests, you don't mess around. So
The
you
only,
no stuff.
as a,
You
I
don't
went
stuff.
to an all boys Catholic high school, Cretan high school here in St. Paul, and the only
Oh.
time you ever got messed with is when you deserved it. You were doing what you were supposed to do. They left you alone, and that's But if you were, no, brother, you're wrong. That's the wrong thing to say to a brother. You're
You'd
gonna
be the
get it.
last one to say that. We also had this dean of discipline, Father Jablonski, his name.
Oh, good old Polish guy. There we go.
Yeah, and he was the dean of discipline, and that they ran that whole school with 3 people. So the
Wow.
dean of discipline, the secretary, and the whatever his name was, thing like that. And it was and it's an article I had one thing. A school, a common school in the New York school, so about 8 people running the school, but not with Jablonski and things like that. So
I'm already afraid of him, and I never met him.
yeah. Yeah,
I was only in the dean's office once in high school as a sophomore, and he looked at me and said, well, we were cutting class where he went to the convenience store off campus, and he said to the one guy, I know who you are. And he looked at me and said, I have no idea who you are, so get out of here. You haven't been in trouble yet enough, so you get the free pass. So they did have some good times. Did you have any aspirations in high school that changed or grew more as a
Well,
freshman to senior?
I always thought I'd like to be a forest ranger. I've seen a couple of things in the
Sure.
movie because I didn't know what forests were or anything like that. But I thought it'd be nice to be a forest ranger and stuff like that. And I kept that thing. In fact, I even applied for it, but I messed around too long and I didn't apply in time enough to get in. Wanakina State or something like that for the New York State College for forest rangers. So, and then what happened? Oh, I didn't make that, and then I come out and I'm graduated here, and what do? I go get a job, and I went for the U.S. Steel Corporation. Their main headquarters, world
Wow.
headquarters,
Yep.
and that was kind of interesting. Each floor had a different thing, a different company on it. U.S. Steel, steamship. They own steamships, and I worked in the mailroom and that thing like that. So I knew all their mines and stuff over in India and stuff like that. And I spent a year there, and then Uncle, and then I knew it was going to happen. At the end of the summer, I had enough of U.S. Steel, so I was going to take the summer off and find another job. But then the U.S. government found me.
Uh-oh.
War was on then, so I ended up in. I didn't want to, how's it going? I got drafted. What happened?
Okay. Give me a year right now.
Pardon?
Give me a year right now. What year were you drafted?
1940. When did I get drafted?
50, around
50,
1950.
1950, maybe.
Okay, so we're setting up Korea's getting hot and heavy.
Yeah, Korea was there. Because that's the reason. One of the reasons I volunteered, if you call it that. I drafted, and at that, and I thought if you volunteered, you go and you serve 3 years.
Yeah.
Drafted you, that's we're in for 2 years. So John goes down and gets thing and reads the paper. It says you're 4 You're in for 4 years. 4 years.
Surprise.
Yeah. So that taught me read the paper because not to belabor it, But another thing was when I served my 4 years, I'm getting ready to get out, and I'm going through the orderly room, and the sergeant says, "What are you doing in here?" He had a
Yeah.
name for me.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I'm getting, oh, Charles, I'm getting discharged. It's Tanner, you ever the dumbest goddamn thing in this group. You're not getting discharged, son. You get separated. What's the difference, Sarge? You guys 4 more years. We
Oh,
you for 4 more years. So I did. I found out I had 4 years as a what do you call it? Thing. I was in active reserve.
okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's an 8 year
You were
thing.
shaking in your boots there for a little bit, huh?
Oh yeah, oh my God, because there had my bride waiting on me getting out. We were going to get married, and oh my God, what?
Well, that's what we need to get into. First of all, thank you for your service. I appreciate that.
Not at
Uh,
all.
you have my respect on that one.
Yeah,
And now I want to get to the point where we got to do the second half talking about family and how did you two meet? What do you remember about your first meeting? Was it positive or negative? You know, sometimes it's no, the guy has no shot, and then it's warmed up. So you have the floor. Tell me about how you first met and just the courtship and getting together and building this wonderful family you have.
yeah. I was in the service then in Columbus, and I served at the Lock Warren Air Force Base, and Ohio State was there. But and my roommate and I, he was from Philadelphia. We decided we were there about 2 years, and we should give up on this life of debauchery and go to night school. So we looked around and we found out this one night school. It was a Catholic girls' school, but it was co-ed at night. So Norm and I go down to St. Mary of the Springs, and we sign up for class. And we found so one of the classes we took was credit for play, being on a play or something
Sure.
like that.
Yeah, acting.
At night on a play, and this lovely young thing, Jean Kelly, she was in charge of the what were you?
Stage manager.
Stage manager.
I was working on my drama minor.
She's working.
Okay.
School.
Stage manager, pretty big deal.
Social work major, drama minor.
I mean,
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, I had a leading part in the play, obviously. I mean, talent, really can't keep raw talent now. But anyway, we were in a play, and then the sister asked me if I go over to this college here and carry a case of Coke or something over. And I said, shoulder, my muscles, and that's what sister.
hamming it up. I knew he was a ham. I knew he was a ham.
Yeah. So I went over she took me went over to the college and I picked up a case of Coke or something and brought it back. And that's how I met Jane that night. Well, I had mixed her, but then I found out who she was and she found out who I was. And one thing led to another. Same thing with Ed that went, my roommate, he married a girl from same Columbus. And,
So you guys made good choices there.
yeah, I think we did. I was
Running over to the school, yeah, but the night school. That's
yeah.
all right. So now I want to hear your story, Gene. How did it all? Is he 100% accurate, or is he leaving or embellishing? Give me your side.
I hate to say it, but it's true, every bit of it.
Okay.
He carried the case of Coke and I invited him to a dance, and from then on it was we dated. And
What did you like about him?
he was a good, solid man who had a focus on what was important in life and in the world. And we had a lot of common aspirations as well as history. His family was very focused on him and on us. And it's been a wonderful, wonderful life to be together.
I went out and took dance lessons to go to that dance you talked about, because I didn't know how to dance, you know? Yeah, but all boys dance school, you don't learn things like that.
You can't just go up and down and just kind of flop around. You need to have some type of
No,
think-
no, 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 no.
right. And what did you see in her, John? What attracted you to her?
I don't know. I mean, she's a very attractive young lady and nice and interested in people and some reason, I mean, it wasn't, she swept me off my feet or
Right,
anything like
sure.
that, but we just got more comfortable as time went on. I think I was there for about 2 years, weren't we?
Yes.
Yeah. I had another, then she graduated and I was still back at the air base. But I don't know, at some point, I said, my God, this is the girl for me, you know?
Could
Yeah.
be it, huh? Okay.
And we've been married how long now?
It's been 69 years.
Well,
69.
congratulations. You got a milestone coming next year, huh?
That's right. That's right.
Excellent. That's wonderful. And you date for how long before you get married?
About a year?
Probably a year,
Yeah.
year and a half,
Yeah.
2 years.
Okay. And how did the logistics work with you being in Ohio and you coming from New York? Had you broken ties with New York and just moved on as a result of your service?
No. No, my parents came out and met Jean and they loved her and she was comfortable with them. And then a couple of friends I had from New York, Long Island, New Jersey, and that we stayed in touch with them. Joe Guzzi, and I was godfather for his firstborn boy, I think. And so Joe Guzzi was always him and a couple of other fellows these were the guys that I don't know where I met them up. Maybe in the summers, because I used to go home and leave in the summertime and go down to Joycey,
Hmm.
Joycey Shore,
Yeah.
and my weeks off then. And so I kept in touch with them until, in fact, unfortunately, Joe and Joy both died. I mean, so for a while there, we kept in touch with it. And unfortunately, my godson got killed in
Oh,
an
boy.
auto accident.
Hmm.
And that's the kind of things that happen in life. So and then the mileage, and we didn't, and we also went out there summer, but their family moved on, and so unfortunately uh, but we still get it.
It was always a strong relationship between our families
Yeah.
and it was, they were considered relatives of his. So
Mhm.
for years,
Mm.
we would go back and forth and
So you go back and forth from Ohio to New
Yeah.
York. Okay.
that
Okay.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now you get married, and where are you in life right now? What is your job? Where are you in the service still? Where are we at that point when you said we're going to get married next year or in 2 months? Where are you in life? What are you doing?
I am going to school, right?
Yes.
I'm registered, going to college, going for a degree, and working. Howard Johnson's. Do you ever hear Howard Johnson?
Sure. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I worked there part time and a couple other things. So got my degree in about 4 years
In
in general business stuff like that.
okay, okay. So that's open ended. You can
And
do a lot with
then
that. Gene, what about you? What are you doing at this time?
Well, I was working for the Diocese of Cleveland and was in a social work position in Lorraine, Ohio.
Okay.
Yes. So until our firstborn was born.
So you get married and you decide to stay. You're going to set up roots in Ohio.
Yes.
And baby number one is who?
Coletta.
Coletta. Describe for me Coletta. From day one till now, what is Coletta like? What is, you can brag a little bit here. You can brag a little bit here.
A charming gal. She is still the head of our household. She's the one that's making the filled noodles for tomorrow night's dinner.
I expect you're going to send some over to me in the Twin Cities over here, so I'll
That's
wait
right.
for that package. Okay.
She took on the role of a social worker, went to the University of Cincinnati and took on the role of a social worker and worked for the courts here in town. And then when the judge changed and went into the Republican Party, she was dismissed and took on another career, went in and got her master's in business and was a manager for one of the Kohl's department stores here in this county. She's been single, but always very active and dating and doing all sorts of very social things.
It sounds like she's not an underachiever.
No.
Okay.
Hired recently, and now she is working for our family dentist and helping him out, his son, rather.
Yeah.
Yes, and she is still active and very busy and on boards and doing all sorts of things and keeping our family together.
Wonderful. That sounds like a nice success story that
Yes.
Coletta's.
Definitely.
Now on to your second born was Patrick. And tell me about the brief Patrick.
Patrick only lived about what, 3 days?
2 days, yes.
3 days.
I'm sorry about
Jean had a cesarean section, C-section.
Cesarean sections.
Yes. And but in those days they kept the women in the hospital for a week. And she you noticed Patrick's lip was blue or something?
Yes.
Yeah. She knows Patrick's, when she's feeding him, his lip was blue. So she poured that to the nurses, and the doctors came in and said, basically, Patrick's going to die,
Oh.
So in those days, they couldn't do anything about it. So he only lived about 3 days.
How tragic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So he's buried out in a cemetery here. Patrick.
And that, well, I'm sorry, that's just horrible news, and I'm sorry that you had to go through that. And life is just terrible because you know what? You just had to sit there, and life just continues to march on and doesn't give a rat's behind about anybody. It just keeps. That's the real unfairness of life.
Had that happened in this day and age, it would have been a totally different story.
They probably would have known, a little bit more of when my first daughter was born. She was a 1 on the APCAR test, and we had the baby, and I'm like, we have a baby girl, and my wife right away, why isn't she crying? Why isn't she crying? Why isn't she crying? And then I realized that I'm such a dummy that I didn't realize it, and ended up she was in the NICU for a while, and they worked on her and got her to come to. But like you said, it's come so much over the years that they basically now that they know what to do. And
that's right.
Well, I'm sorry about that tragic loss. You'll never get over that, but
no, but
sounds like,
no, we never will. No, but it's.
But you march on, and then your next child is Mary.
Yes.
No.
Okay, tell me about Mary.
I'm saying, interrupt, you notice the thing here? They're all named after families in the family.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
that's something that maybe it's interesting because it affected both John and I when we were choosing names for our children. We had lots of names for Colette. And John's mother said, well, she's going to be named after your mother, isn't she? Okay. My mother's
Oh,
name was,
leading the witness, leading the witness.
right. My mother's name was Colette.
That's why she was Colette.
And,
Okay,
when Patrick was born, he was named after John's father,
okay,
Joseph. When Mary was born, she was named after John's mother. And then at the tail end of our children, Thomas was born and he was named after my father. So,
you just kind of kept the lines moving here.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. We had no choices, but it was symbolic and it was very interesting and we've never complained about it.
Oh, that's a nice tribute. Tell me about Mary.
Our daughter Mary?
Mary
Yes.
was a wonderful student.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart.
She is something else, yes. One thing that I always remember about Mary, she was in kindergarten. She did not go to parochial school until the first grade.
Okay.
But our public school was just a block away from us, and so she used to walk back and forth to kindergarten. And around Valentine's Day, the first Valentine's Day, she came home with a 5-pound box of candy from her boyfriend.
Oh, whoa. Hang
Yeah,
on.
yeah, age 5. That's Mary.
Yeah.
They were fast in Ohio, don't they? They were really fast.
Mary has always been a connector, and she is just a wonderful person and has gone through lots of problems, but she's always maintained her sanity, and she and her
Sounds
husband.
like she has a good family base to draw from,
Yes.
regardless of the ups and downs. And there's
Yes.
no perfect child.
No, that's right.
You just deal with it, and it
Yeah.
and that's, you sound like the kind of parents that help out. It's okay. There's no playbook that says this is how your life is going to be. It's the ups and downs, and the downs is when you really come together and
That's
sprout
right.
and move forward.
Yes.
All right, and move on to Tom. I don't know what I'm going to get here with Tom.
Well, we have a lot of other children in the meantime there. We have another one after Mary, it was Jean.
Okay.
And Jean has been a tremendous asset to the family and has a very stable marriage and family, just as Mary does, and has 3 children, and we have grandchildren from both of the families and great-grandchildren from Jean's children.
Are you grandma and grandpa, or nana and papa? What are you?
Oh, grandma and grandpa, or Grams,
What
grandma and
tradition?
grandpa.
Okay, that's good. Sometimes just there's pet names, and I if there are, I want to find out why. But that's
Yeah.
I just want to be grandpa. I want to be grandpa. I have mine.
Oh. Just whatever, but anyway, she's a seamstress. She began as she wanted to be what engineer.
Yeah.
She had 2 years in, and she was going to sign up for an engineering course at Cleveland, one of the universities in Cleveland. And unfortunately, her husband got in the way and they got married and she had children. And so she never did complete that. But she's a seamstress and does all sorts of things, but she's also always fixing something. She takes after her father and she's
She's
helpful.
tinkering. She tinkers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, she can.
She's been in our apartment over here and decided on a couple of things that needed to be taken care of. And she's very, very good at that sort of thing. Yes.
Awesome. It's a very good trait. That's the creative trait for that. And that's Caroline, correct?
That's Jean.
Jean. I'm losing track. Oh, Jean. Caroline is next. Okay, she's next on.
Caroline is next. Yes.
Tell me about Caroline.
You want to talk about Caroline?
Caroline's a sweetheart, isn't she? I mean, what can I say? I mean,
She's happily married, has 3 wonderful children. One of them is a Marine. One of them lives in Colorado and is doing whatever she does the best up there. And another one living in New York City.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
He's a captain in the Marines, and the other one lives in my old neighborhood, up on East 80th in New York.
Well, that's fun.
So,
And the captain's going to be a lifer, I would assume, huh?
yeah, I don't know.
Going to be in there for a while. If he's that high ranked, that's
yeah. He has. That's we're talking about that last time we saw him. It's time to make that decision whether sign up and get his 20 in or get out and get away from it. So.
Well, they keep dangling that carrot, I'm sure. They throw a little money at him and say, hey,
yeah.
Not like your 4 extra years, right?
Yeah, yeah, he knew. Yeah.
He read the entire paper, didn't he?
Yeah.
Unlike you.
Yeah, thanks,
So
Caroline.
next up is Kate.
Oh, our Katie. Katie is what should we say? Katie is a not problem child, but
the one that gives you a little, that kind of needles you a little bit, or gives you a little something to think about.
The challenge, yeah, yeah.
She's doing. She has 3 children, and unfortunately, she has never had a successful marriage, but she does have 3 wonderful children, and they're all doing very well. And
that's an accomplishment. If she's doing that and she's had on her own or partially, that's a tribute to her. And
she's doing,
again, there's no perfect family, and that's.
She has a lot of physical problems, and that is something that has kept her from a lot of things. Yeah. But she's
the 3 grandchildren are quite an accomplishment. So that's
right.
That's always pleasant. That's a way to gauge. That's the way to gauge how your life is going. If the kids are talking to you, number one. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And then, so Kate is last, but we've got Tom. I referenced Tom earlier. Well, and he's there, so you better talk nice.
John will tell you all about Tom, but I have to tell you that Tom had 6 mothers.
6 mothers.
Oh, quite a
Caroline,
bit
Kate,
than the girls. Yes.
Yeah.
And so they all decided that they were going to take charge of him. So that's where he's at. And he's sitting right here with us.
Yeah.
Don't say anything bad about him. He's right there, huh?
Yeah, right. We have to.
What does Tom like to do?
Say we only have to tell the good things. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, please only tell the good things. What are Tom's interests?
Tom is it's a pride and joy, to tell you the truth. If you want to say something like that, he want to
Yeah.
That's his alma mater.
MIT.
MIT.
Another underachiever, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Went to MIT and he got it accepted at MIT and graduated from MIT and
Congratulations, with a degree
in what?
Aerospace engineering.
What was your degree in, son?
Aerospace.
Aerospace engineering.
Wow, that goes right over my empty head. I know that I wouldn't probably get along with Tom because he'd be 10 steps ahead of me and I would be picking up the rear going, I have no idea what he just told me. That's okay.
No, because he's so personable.
Nice.
You could probably be perfectly comfortable with him. You'll meet him.
That's excellent. I
Yeah.
love to hear that. Now, describe for me, we've got all the kids, how many grandkids total and how many great grandkids?
We had a total of 16 grandchildren. We lost one of our, Mary lost one of her daughters at the age of 22.
Sorry.
And we have 6 great grandchildren.
6 great grandchildren. That's wonderful.
Well,
And now describe for me, before you went into assisted living, describe for me a great holiday memory. What was one of your, with everybody together, or maybe it was a 4th of July, not an outing, or what, give me a memory that they can also think, yeah, that was fun, but that was a great weekend, or that was a great vacation.
But my mother's birthday, I'll show you that picture we have of everybody. What was
we have lots of memories. Oh my goodness.
family?
How do we
Good.
pick out one?
Yeah.
One thing that I can say is that our family has been focused on gatherings, and we have had a couple of gatherings at the ocean that have been very specific years ago. Can you think of something, Tom?
Well, if you have too many that's numerous to remember, that's a positive sign. That's a good thing. That means there's too many to pinpoint one, and I think I appreciate that. That's fantastic. I'll move on to, how do you wish to be remembered? Both of you, or together. How do you wish to be remembered, and what is one of your greatest accomplishments in life? One of, not the most, just one of. What are you proud of?
Well, I married a beautiful woman, girl. No doubt about that. And what about you?
I think our relationship has been very strong, and,
Yeah.
and I'm very grateful for what John has given us and what
And
we
how-
have had together.
Yeah. They're good.
And how do you wish to be remembered?
I guess we would hope to be remembered as
Good friends, good neighbor, good parents. Good neighbors, good parents. Mhm.
that's good.
Excellent. That's a wonderful way to be remembered, but it's that accent that we just can't get over. It's your accent, John. We just can't, you still got that New York in you.
Can I tell you a story about that real quick? Like my mother, was born in Scotland, okay? But we didn't get a telephone until I was in 8th grade. We didn't just like get people were getting phones. And the first time the phone rang, and it was my mother. And I heard said, "Oh my God, Grandma, Mom, is that you? You sound so strange." She had this. I didn't really. She had an accent, but I could hear her accent on that phone. That, my God, Grandma, Mom, you sound so delicate. I remember I said, "Mom, you sound just like I got off the boat." Everybody else said Mary's lovely accent, her Scottish accent, but that's the only time I ever really realized that she really had a good, strong Scottish accent. And
I would have had fun. I would have just sat and made her talk and just sat and listen. I mean, accents are fantastic, whether it is Boston, Maine, New York, or Scottish.
Huh.
Accents are so much fun to have people talk.
Right.
As we wind up here, any message that you would like to give your family? They'll see this down the road here, your grandkids, your great grandkids, and so forth. What would you like to just say? This is random. This is open. No holds barred.
Just say, we love you. We're proud of you. We hope you grew up to be good parents as our parents was to us. What do you say?
Yes, I
Mhm.
agree with you.
Mhm.
You second that.
Mm.
That's a cop out. He did. Well, it's well said. Well, I'm really happy I know we've never met before, but I feel like I know you and your family a little bit, but you too. I'd like to compliment you on pretty close to 70 years of marriage. And yes, you got a lot of kids, grandkids, and great grandkids, but having those children and having them grow up and have more, I think is a tribute to your relationship. And I can tell you guys are best friends and still in love, and you have my respect.
Thank you very much.
And holding hands is key. And John, you said the right thing when I married a great lady. She can never be mad at you again. You can never be mad at you for anything else again. Okay, it's all good. Well, take care. It was really fun. This is your sound story, and I'm really happy that we got to spend this time together.
Well,
And,
thank
Very
you.
nice
We
meeting you,
appreciate
and
that.
thank you for everything.
Hey.
if I'm sneaking through Ohio, I'll stop for some of the filled noodles.
Well, I wish we could send you some.
No, you already did. I think I can already smell them already.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Well, it was a pleasure and a treasure to meet you both.
Thank you very much.
Our privilege. Thank you.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
great life. And Tom, thank you as well.
Thanks, Rook.